So what are the possible exit scenarios for domestic LPs and how liquidity can be enhanced by providing a secondary market in case of AIFs? So that's the one thing because today there is no practical organized secondary market for the AIFs units actually. And the domestic LP are still hesitant to invest in volatile startups ecosystem. What are the measures taken by fund managers to provide them comfort to increase their portfolio allocation to AIFs? These two questions are there, which we'd like to understand from you. And thank you very much. And over to you, Alokji. Sorry.
Thanks, Ashish ji, and thanks, Resurgent Group, and thanks everyone for inviting me for this very insightful webinar. And just a little bit about us. So, we are a global cross-border tax and legal firm. We focus mostly on cross-border, founder-driven, funded, non-funded companies. I started this company in 2009. Prior to that, I was working with a big accounting firm for 7 to 8 years. So in total, been working with tech startups and cross-border businesses for close to 2 decades now. And something happened in 2008 wherein, so I was working in Bangalore with KPMG and I could see Snapdeal and Flipkart coming up in Koramangala, and every day there is a talk about new startup. And I thought that why don't I build something of my own? And I quit and came back and started Tax Mantra Global, which is the TMG Global. It's been 13 years of journey. We do India, Singapore, India, US, and India, Dubai cross-border work. In fact, we work with Singapore government also in detail. Uh, as you said that I also invest a lot since 2015. I have made a lot of investments in my personal capacity, and in COVID, with my partners in Singapore and Dubai, we started a syndicate fund out of Singapore, which is called Profit Board Ventures, wherein we pull in money from our friends and put it in Indian and the Southeast Asian startups. I have also been promoter, non-working promoter in some of the large startups which have become large now. So it's been a so my life totally consumes into startups and founders and entrepreneurs. That's how I put it. And coming back to the question, Ashish ji, which you have asked me, and which is very relevant because now we are in we have spent 10 to 12 years, 14 years in the Indian startup ecosystem in a sense that we are going into the next stage. And when we go into next stage, we start talking about exits, right? The single most large exit which happened with Flipkart, and since no startup ecosystem will really grow till the time the domestic local money doesn't get into that ecosystem. That's what happens in US, that's what happens in other large startup ecosystem. And it's high time that we also have our own domestic money getting invested into startups. And Sunil ji rightly said that it is very important that our own money gets invested into startups and we also get the opportunity to earn that kind of return, right? So I think exit is becoming very important now as we kind of get into the journey of the startup ecosystem in India. And I to my mind there are a few options wherein there are exit for domestic partners in AIF mode, and there are several possible exit scenarios which I can talk about. The number one which comes to my mind is IPO. And IPO, starting with Zomato and other successful IPOs, even though we had some disappointments also. But however, considering the current market scenario, I believe that once the valuation at the initial level pre-IPO gets kind of realistic, the IPO will also start working for startups. So IPO can be one of the very important way of exit. The second is merger and acquisition. And I personally feel that as Indian startup ecosystem matures and more products and more services are being started and scaled up, there may be many scenarios wherein merger and acquisition will happen. There may be scenario wherein a product is very good, but product has still not found out the monetization value to that point, and there are some strategic investment either from a corporate or from other startup who want to buy that product or service. So merger and acquisition will really kick in Indian startup ecosystem in next 10-15 years. That's my view. Secondary sale is also which involves selling the IP's ownership interest in the AIF to another investor, such as secondary market buyer. And this can provide liquidity to LPs who wish to exit their investment before the fund designated terms end. I think another interesting aspect, which is very popular in US, is buyback by the general partner. So some AIF may have provisions that allow the GP to repurchase LP's interest under certain conditions, obviously under the compliance of the regulatories, right? So these are some of the exit options, which to my mind comes when we talk about domestic LPs. And there can be many ways in which liquidity and facilities secondary market transactions the IF can explore, mainly thinking about establishing a secondary market platform. So I always feel that in India we should have a platform for secondary market in startup. There has to be a platform wherein if I have invested, I should have an option to go and create and get an exit, right? In terms of, so LPs can buy and sell their ownership interest in the fund. They can partner in with secondary market providers also, and there may be another option which, subject to compliance, is AIF can offer periodic liquidity windows, whereas LPs can submit requests to redeem and sell their interest at predetermined intervals. So I think these are important. These are some of the important ways wherein the exit and the liquidity options can be found out for domestic LPs, as we think about.